prosperity, and the just government of men and women, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have called to the performance of important trust in these islands. Father, let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. And this we beg in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Please be seated. Item number 2, confirmation of minutes. Vice President Karen Bell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, the 25th of September, 2024 be taken as read.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of Wednesday, the 25th of September, 2024 be confirmed.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Thank you.
And then, Madam President, there's one more item. I move that the consideration of the minutes of the meeting of Monday, the 30th of September, 2024 be deferred.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Thank you, Vice President Karen Bell. Item number 3, messages. Mrs. Beal?
There are no messages, Madam President.
Thank you. Item number 4, reports of committees. There are none. Item number 5, announcements. Senators, I just need to remind us that both Senators John White and Senator Douglas DeCouta are abroad, and so they're not here this morning. Item number 6, notices of motion. There are none. Item number 7, petitions. There are none. Item number 8, statements. There are none. Item number 9, introduction of bills. There are none. Item number 10, the first reading of public bills. There are none. Item number 11, the first reading of private bills. There are none. Item number 12, question and question period. Senators, we do have questions that have been submitted for oral response today, and the first series of questions is in the name of Senator Robin Tucker, opposition leader in the Senate. Senator Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, and good morning to my Senate colleagues and to the listening audience. The first question I would like to ask is, will the Honorable Minister please provide the Senate with a list of senators and members of the House of Assembly who are currently receiving or have received any form of remuneration separate from their parliamentary salaries for any work or advisory services in the Ministry of the Cabinet Office, or for public service on statutory boards or committees of quangos or other publicly funded entities coming under the remit of the ministry. This is over a period from the 1st of May 2023 to 31st of August 2024, and the amount of remuneration received. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Minister Darrell.
Thank you, Madam President. MP Jamal Simmons, $7,766.65 per month. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Darrell. The second, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President.
Supplementary.
Yes, I do. Can the minister please let us know what role MP Simmons played in connection with the remuneration that he has just stated? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker.
Thank you, Madam President. Communication support.
Thank you, Minister. Would any other senator care to? You have a supplementary or second question?
This is a supplementary, Madam President. I would like to know for the communication support that the minister has just stated, has the support that he has been given, has that now concluded or is it ongoing? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker.
Ongoing.
Minister Darrell. Oh, don't know if everyone heard you. Sorry, I didn't. Senator Robbins, Dwayne Robinson, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Would the minister be able to provide what that rate is broken down as we got a bulk amount? I just would like to know what that rate is for service.
Minister
Madam
Downs.
President, with respect, the senator may need to listen a little better because I broke it down per month at the rate given. So he can go back later and listen again. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Darrow. Senator Tucker, you have a second question. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Can the minister tell us specifically what the communication
Madam
support
President,
entails?
I
Thank you,
think- I
Madam
think-
President.
She's out of questions, Madam President. Supplementaries were asked. The
Two
question was asked
supplementaries
is
and
is
one
over.
Two supplementaries.
Jefferson, she's allowed a third, isn't she? All right.
Yeah.
Senator Robin Tucker, you're allowed two questions, two supplementaries, and then you're that becomes yeah. Yeah. Senator Robin Tucker, you're out of questions.
Thank you, Madam President.
And we will now move on to second item on our agenda. And that is the questions that have been put to Senator Ariana Hudson to provide oral response to parliamentary questions from Senator Robin Tucker. And before you do, I would just like to acknowledge the presence of the Policy Analyst for Public Works, Mr. Stephen Simons. Senator, continuing with the questions, Senator Tucker, you have questions that you wanted to put to Senator Hudson to provide an oral response this morning. You can ask your questions at this time.
Thank you, Madam President. So the question to put to Senator Hodgson, will the junior minister please provide the Senate with a list of senators and members of the House of Assembly who are currently receiving or have received any form of remuneration separate from their parliamentary salaries for any work or advisory services in the Ministry of Finance or for public service on statutory boards or committees of quangos or other publicly funded entities coming under the remit of the ministry over the period from the 1st of May 2023 to 31st of August 2024 and the amount of remuneration received. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Senator Hudson,
Yes, Madam President, good morning.
good morning.
Member of Parliament, Mr. Jashay Adams, receives remuneration in the amount of $142,400 for the period of May 1st, 2023 through the 31st of August, 2024. And that was for employment as an advisor to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. Senator Tucker,
Thank you, Madam President. Can the junior minister just give some insight into how the selection process actually is going about to determine the best qualified person for the advisor to the Ministry of Finance? Thank you, Madam President.
thank you, Senator.
Madam President, that's beyond the scope of the question posed.
Senator Tucker,
Madam President, the reason I asked the question is because $142,000 of taxpayers' money is going to pay for this particular role. So I just, it's logical to me anyway that the taxpayers would want to know whether a person
Madam
is
President,
qualified to do
point
this
of order.
particular role.
Point of order. This is question period,
yes.
and I think the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance is giving commentary, which is out of order, Madam President.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Senator Tucker, any supplementaries? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Senators, then we will move Senator Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Just for clarity's
Supplementary.
purpose, yes, a supplemental. This role as special advisor concluded upon the appointment of Joshe Adams to Junior Minister of Finance, just for clarity purpose.
Madam President.
Senator
again-
Hudson.
Yes, sorry. Again, the question's out of scope in that the period identified, May 1st, 2023, throughout the 31st of August, 2024, was detailed as indicated earlier.
Thank you, Senator
The junior
Hudson.
minister was actually appointed in September, I believe it was September the 16th.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. That concludes question number 2. And so we move on to question number 3. And this is directed to Senator Leslie Robinson. The consideration of the lease agreement of Seagrass Services Limited, the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, and the Bermuda government. Senator,
Thank you, Madam President.
Point of order, Madam President. The standing order says that each senator has 2 questions, and by my count, the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance Senate team has already asked 2 substantive questions, Madam President.
Are we moving on? Are we moving on to the next question for Senator
Asked
Robinson?
2 questions, Senator.
we are on the
My
third
written
question. We're on the third question, Minister. Mhm. Yeah. But they've had the 3. They haven't had the 3. Minister Senator Tucker can ask the third question.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity, Madam President.
Senator Tucker?
Thank you, Madam President. Will the junior minister, Senator Robinson, please provide the Senate with a list of senators and members of the House of Assembly who are currently receiving or have received any form of remuneration separate from their parliamentary salaries for any work or advisory services in the Ministry of Public Works or for public service on statutory boards or committees of quangos or other publicly funded entities coming under the remit of the ministry over the period from 1st of May 2023 to 31st of August 2024, and the amount of remuneration received. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker.
Madam President, based on the premise of the question and the time frame requested, in addition to itself, the Ministry of Public Works held 4 quangos under its remit: the West End Development Corporation, the Bermuda Land Development Company, the Bermuda Housing Corporation, the Golf Courses. The standard remittance rate for government board appointments are $100 per meeting for a chairperson and $50 per meeting for a board member. As a reminder, on September 16, 2024, the following changes to the ministry's remit were made. The West End Development Corporation and the Bermuda Land Development Company merged to form the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, and the responsibility for the golf courses was shifted from Public Works to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Sports. Nevertheless, The list of senators and members of the House of Assembly who are currently receiving or have received any form of remittance separate from their parliamentary salaries for any work or advisory services in the Ministry of Public Works over the period 1st of May 2023 to 31st of August 24 are as follows. Ministry of Public Works, Zane De Silva, JPMP, Chairperson, 2024 National Parks Commission meetings, $300. The West End Development Company, West End Development Corporation and Bermuda Land Development Company, Navo Tyrrell, JPMP, Chairman of WEDCO and BLDC, 2023 WEDCO board meetings, 2,400. 2024 WEDCO board meetings, 1,600. 2023 BLDC board meetings, $2,575. 2024 BLDC board meetings, $2,575. Total $9,150. Dennis Lister III, JPMP, member of WEDCO board, 2023 board meetings, $1,050. 2024 board meetings, $850. Levita Fogo, JPMP, chairperson of BLDC, 2023 meetings prior to boards amalgamating, $825. The Bermuda Housing Corporation, Thomas Christopher Famous, chairperson, board meetings, $1,500. The golf courses, Kim Swan, JPMP, chairperson, 2022 golf courses board meetings, $1,200. Jason Wade, JPMP board member, 2022 golf courses board meetings, $500. If there's any further information, for further information, there were increased meetings of BLDC and WEDCO boards attributable to the merging of the two Quangos. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Leslie Robinson, Junior Minister of Public Works. Would it? Obviously, you've provided full answers, and so there are no further questions on this, on the question period. I would just like to also acknowledge that we have with us the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, Nelina Selleck. Welcome to you, Madam. Moving on then with our agenda, having finished the questions. Item number 14, motions, there are none. Item number 15, congratulatory and/or, oh gosh, where am I? No, sorry. Where's the orders of the day? I want to hasten everything today. The orders of the day is the second reading of the Tax Reform Commission, the Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024, and that's in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson. Senator Hudson, you have the spokesperson for finance. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the provisions of Standing Order 25 be granted so that the Senate may now proceed with the second reading of the bills entitled the Tax Reform Commission, Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024, and the Electricity Amendment Act 2024.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Tax Reform Commission, Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Today I present the Tax Reform Commission Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024. By way of background, I would note that the Ministry of Finance announced the formation of the current Tax Reform Commission in November of 2023. Madam President, the aim of this act is to address several key issues regarding the Tax Reform Commission established under the Tax Reform Commission Act 2017. Specifically, it seeks to retroactively dissolve the existing commission and appoint a new one. It allows for the validation of its actions and extends its operational period. Madam President, please note the validation aspects of this act were made purely for the sake of court order, as there has been no action taken by the Commission that requires formal validation. Since updates given to this House earlier this year, it has come to light that not all necessary steps to properly establish the newly formed commission were fully completed. Although the report was presented on the 16th of November 2018, our research has shown that in fact the financial statements were not tabled in the legislature. The tabling of these statements was required under the Act to complete the dissolution process. It was established that as the dissolution process was not completed, the Tax Reform Commission could not be deemed legally impaneled. The Act now completes the dissolution process and allows for the new panel to be properly established. Madam President, this Act also extends the statutory period of this Commission's establishment. Under the Tax Reform Commission Act 2017, the Commission conducts its functions for a period of 6 months starting from the date of appointment, unless the Minister by order extends the period of existence and operation of the Commission. Given ongoing developments in key areas within the OECD that are relevant to the work of the Tax Reform Commission, it has become necessary to extend the Commission's mandate. The implementation of the corporate income tax framework is expected to have a significant impact on future government revenue. Additionally, the potential interaction between the corporate income tax and the existing tax system makes it essential to extend the Commission's duration to fully carry out its mandate and meet its objectives. To date, the Tax Reform Commission has been actively engaged in a range of activities, including extensive fact-finding efforts to gather relevant data and insights, conducting detailed modeling exercises to evaluate potential outcomes, and carefully considering various alternative approaches. These efforts aim to ensure that the Tax Reform Commission explores all possible options and recommendations to support informed decision-making and the development of an effective framework. With this, no actions have been identified that will require validation at this stage. Madam President, in closing, this Act aims to address issues with the Tax Reform Commission established under the 2017 Act and extends the Commission's statutory period to allow it to complete its mandate, particularly given the ongoing developments related to the OECD and the implementation of the corporate income tax regime. This bill also retroactively validates previous actions. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, spokesperson for Finance. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Dwayne Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And we recognize that this is a corrective measure. So we have no issues with it. I'd just like to ask the junior minister, spokesperson for finance. my apologies, sorry. um, what corrective measures have been put in place to, mitigate this from happening in the future? And also, what can we expect to see going forward to make sure that these administrative errors are not made?
Madam President, the Ministry of Finance works closely with the Attorney General's chambers on all legislative matters, and so unfortunately, this was a matter that had not been identified in time to correct it prior to reaching this stage. Moving forward, these types of matters are typically caught in the legislative drafting process, and we've ensured that the process has the relevant checks and balances to ensure that errors like this will not happen in the future. And so we are thankful to the technical office who raised the issue and helped to resolve it, of course.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson.
And with that, Madam President, I'd like to move that the Tax Reform Commission Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to the second reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Tax Reform Commission Dissolution, Appointment, and Validation Act 2024 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
Is there any objection to the passage of this bill? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, and thank you, Senators. Moving then on to the next order of the day, and that is the second reading of the Electricity Amendment Act 2024, and that's in the name of Senator Lindsey Simmons, the Junior Minister of Home Affairs. Senator Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Electricity Amendment Act 2024 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to the second reading of this bill? No objection.
Madam President, I rise to present to the Senate for the second reading the bill entitled the Electricity Amendment Act 2024. The bill seeks to amend the Electricity Act 2016, the 2016 Act, to create a bulk generation soil use installation, BGSUI, license for large developments to generate electricity above the current license threshold of 500 kilowatts. Madam President, this bill strikes a balance between the need of license holders and the sustainability of the grid while minimizing any negative impacts, including costs to the ratepayer. Madam President, I remind honorable members of the government's commitment to reduce the use of fossil fuels by 85% in the production of electricity by 2035, which is reflected in the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan, IRP. One of the categories of renewable energy defines the IRP is distributed solar, i.e. solar developments installed by individual residents and commercial entities. Promoting distribution solar development while restriction installations of 500 kilowatts for large commercial enterprises to the goal of reduction in the use of fossil fuel to produce electricity. It also limits the ability of a distributed generator to earn a return on their investment. In the present scenario, developers of large-scale installations cannot use for their own benefit the renewable energy that they produce and require by the Act to sell their renewable energy to BELCO for only approximately 12% per kilowatt. They must continue to buy all their consumed electricity from the utilities at in excess of 45% per kilowatt. Madam President, currently large developments such as the National Stadium and the government rooftop installations fall into this category. Other potential developments such as hotels and Google proposed data center will encounter the same challenges. Madam President, this bill will allow a Bermuda registered company, government departments, or statutory authority intended to install over the threshold of 500 kilowatts and intended solely for the use at the applicant's location to apply for a license to be exempt from the 500 kilowatt threshold. Currently, any bulk generated license holders are allowed to build utility scale installations above the threshold of 500 kilowatts. A condition of their license is that they must sell the energy they produce back to the utility. The BGSUI license will be subjected to regulatory authority RA's oversight, which seeks to ensure minimum risk to the grid and the course remain stable. Madam President, the bill seeks to achieve the following. Number one, creates a new BGSUI license that allows the license holder to install their generated electricity above 500 kilowatt threshold, ensures that the BGSUI license holder is required to use all or the majority of the energy generated for the use of the license holder's location. The purpose of this provision is to ensure that the BGSUI's license holder is using the majority of the renewable energy generated, and as such, the amount of the feed-in tariff does not have a negative impact on the rate charged to the rate payers who do not have the benefit of distributed renewable energy installations. The 30% that was mentioned in the bill that the maximum allowed to be sold to the utility is based on the needs of the commercial office building, which may be closed on weekends and holidays. During that period, energy will continue to be generated but will not be consumed. However, a hotel or data center that will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, will probably use all the energy that is generated. It will be the responsibility of the RA to determine what percentage could be sold back to the utility. It should be noted that the location may generate more electricity that will go back to the grid, but only the percentage determined by the RA will be consumption. defines the cri- Number three, defines the criteria of the grant of the BGSUI license. Honorable members will note that the applicant will have to obtain permission from the Department of Planning, and that the applicant conforms with the grid code and any relevant technical specifications, and means that the interconnected means to be interconnected with the grid. As a result, there will be collaboration between the Department of Planning and the utility and the RA. Number four, the pro- sets out to proceed for the RA to suspend or revoke license, requiring the RA to issue a warning notice and to take into account any representation made and the corrective action taken by the license holder before making a decision, and providing for a right to appeal to the Supreme Court. This is consistent with the procedures that are used for other license issued by the RA. Number five, empowers the RA to determine feed-in tariffs applicable to the BGSUI licenses and creates a intermediate contract for the BGSUI license holders. Number six, creates the fees payable by the BGSUI license holder. Madam President, although currently the main source of the renewable energy is solar, the bill is agnostic as to the type of generation. This takes into account that in the future there may be other sources of renewable energy that the license holder could use, for example, wave and wind. Madam President, I would be remiss if I did not thank the following officers that contributed to this bill, including Mr. Richard Ambrosio, Interim Chief Executive and Director of Legal Affairs of the RA, Mr. Nigel Burgess, Head of the Regulations at the RA, Mr. Adrian Deal, Acting Director of the Department of Energy, Ms. Razia Azad, a consultant with the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the drafter, Ms. Catherine Balfian Swain. Madam President, it is our goal to move Bermuda to a clean and sustainable energy future with affordable and renewable energy. This bill will assist us in continuing to achieve the goal in a measured and well regulated fashion. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. I would just like to acknowledge the presence in this chamber of the acting director, Mr. Adrian Dill. Welcome to you, sir. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Robin Tucker, opposition leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Junior Minister, for her brief. We do not have any objections. I would just like to say that in providing bulk generation, a bulk generation use license to enable large developments such as, I mean, we just talked about Google just the other day, Google and others to sell a percentage of their generated electricity back to Belco. Is a good thing since obviously in the past, for everyone above a certain capacity, they had to route all their kilowatts through Belco, which meant that they had to buy their self-produced energy back from Belco, obviously losing money along the way. So I would just like to make a comment that I would like to see at some point soon, hopefully, that the RA's powers may be sufficiently strengthened to enable it to have the powers to more directly influence how rates are set so that ratepayers will be able to see some significantly impactful decreases in their bills. With that, I do have two questions. My first question is the RA may require an applicant for a license to produce a consultancy deposit. So I would like to know if the junior minister can sort of just give us some idea as to the circumstances in which that deposit might be required. And then my second question is, I have to admit, I'm just very curious about this. The junior minister did mention about the license holder being permitted to distribute up to the 30% of the permitted amount of its total electricity generated. So I'm just curious to know, how was the 30% threshold determined? Just, that it would just be helpful to know that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Would any other senator care to ask a question on this bill? Hearing none, then we'll wait for the senator to get a response, to give a response.
Thank you, Madam President. The RA at times in reviewing an application to the RA may require assistance of overseas consultant to review applications. However, it is a standard PV solar application consultants will not be required. And to answer the second question, the bill also specifies that the majority of generated energy must be used for the operation of the principal location. It should be noted in installations such as offices, electricity will be granted when the office is closed on weekends and public holidays. If there are no batteries for storage, then the excess electricity will go back to the grid. In the installation, there and installations that are 24/7 operations, Google data/hotels, it is expected that all generated energy will be used solely for the operations. To be clear, a development can send back more than 30% to the grid, but will not pay for it. The amount will have to be assessed in consultation with planning and BELCO before the license is issued. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. There are no further questions. Senator, you may move your bill.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled Electricity Amendment Act 2024 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to the second reading? No objection.
Thank you. Madam President, I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Electricity Amendment Act 2024 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Electricity Amendment Act 2024 do not pass. Is there an objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Lindsey Simmons, Junior Minister of Home Affairs. We'll move then on to the third item on our orders of the day, and that is consideration of the lease agreement, Seagrass Services Limited, the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, and the Bermuda government. And that's in the name of Senator Leslie Robinson, the Junior Minister for Public Works. Senator Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Senate do now take under consideration the lease agreement between the Bermuda Land Management Corporation and Seagrass Services Limited, reference area land comprising 5.9 acres located at Burroughs Hill, Southside Road, between Stocks Road and Hall Street, St. George's DD03, shown edged yellow on the annex photographic plan as described in Schedule 1 attached to the lease.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Continue,
Thank
Senator
you.
Robinson.
Madam President and Senate colleagues, in accordance with Section 22 of the Bermuda Land Corporation Act 1982, I introduced the agreement for lease between the Bermuda government, Bermuda Land Management Corporation, and Seagrass Services Limited for land measuring a total area of 5.9 acres located at Burroughs Hill between Stocks Road and Hall Street, South Side, St. George's Parish, as denoted in this said agreement. Madam President, as stated by myself in a previous sitting of this chamber, thanks to the forward-thinking approach of this government through the Submarine Communication Cables Act 2020, which was developed under the Ministry of Home Affairs, Bermuda has positioned itself to play an integral role in the future of information and communications technology, ICT infrastructure globally. This is why Senate colleagues may recall in September 2023, Google announced a commitment to invest in Bermuda by installing the NUVIM, a new transatlantic subsea cable system to connect Portugal, Bermuda, and the United States. It is intended that the NUVIM will improve network resiliency across the Atlantic, help meet the growing demands for digital services, and add international route diversity to support the development of the aforementioned digital infrastructure. Madam President, to support the NUVEM, Bermuda will be hosting a significant cable station to enable multiple cable landings. However, it is more than a cable landing just passing through the island. It will provide a backbone for a wider strategy of a digital port with all the requirements for supporting data. Madam President, through a subsidiary, Seagrass Services Limited, Google will benefit Bermuda in a number of ways, including employment for positions needed on an ongoing basis for the cable landing station, creating the infrastructure which supports, one, a technology hub for fintech, and two, increased satellite earth stations, increasing investment in renewable energy. The cable landing station will need between 600 kilowatts and 3 megawatts per annum of electricity over time as the cables ramp up, providing access to Google's significant resource and support, such as A, training opportunities to Bermudians by giving them access to Google's training platform, B, providing support and advice for other sustainability projects and marine related initiatives, including providing technology for monitoring and enforcement, and C, supporting Bermuda's education initiatives and community development opportunities. In return, Madam President, the government has agreed in principle to a lease of 262-year lease between Seagrass Services Limited and the newly established Bermuda Land Management Corporation, BLMC, for the sum of $4,867,000 $67,500,000 for a portion of land located at Burroughs Hill between Stocks Road and Hall Street, Southside St. George's Parish. For clarity, this area is currently the remote control car track in St. David's. After considerable due diligence, Madam President, the agreed price was based upon the likely market valuation of the freehold interest in the property at the price of $4,650,000 or $825,000 per acre. The evaluation was conducted by the Bermuda Realty Company Limited. Madam President, in addition to this, and as a result of the agreement, the tenants of the current RC track location will be moved to another site. A planning application will soon be submitted for a new RC car track, and all works will be funded entirely by Google. Madam President, Google will also directly invest in Bermuda's economy immediately by constructing a new building on a site where there is currently not one. Madam President, it is intended for this agreement to act as a magnet, drawing other players in the communication industry, whether for laying their own cables or leasing from Google. There have already been inquiries from other major companies into building data centers in Bermuda. The successful agreement for this lease will deliver on the government's economic development commitments outlined in its 2020 election manifesto, FinTech, and the National Space Strategy by creating the infrastructure which supports a technology hub. I would like to take time to thank all parties involved for making this happen, in particular, the Honorable David A. Birch, Minister of Public Works, the Honorable Walter H. Raban, Minister of Home Affairs, Ms. Razi Azar, the former Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Home Affairs, Solicitor General Mrs. Shakira Del Francois, and Senior Crown Counsel Specialist Ms. Chantal Bailey of the Attorney General's Chambers, Mr. Andrew Diaz, the CEO of the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, the Board of the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, the Board of the former Bermuda Land Development Company, Mr. Jerome Wilson, Partner and Head of Technology and Innovation, and Mr. Neil Molyneux, Senior Associate Property Team of Applebee's Global Services, and Ms. Fiona Beck, formerly the Bermuda Business Development Agency and now a consultant with Google, all of whom are instrumental in bringing this matter to its conclusion. We are most appreciative of their efforts. Madam President, this agreement demonstrates Bermuda's vitality for innovation and importance of a global scale. We hope that this agreement sets the foundation for even bigger and better things to come. We welcome Google's proposed investment in Bermuda and look forward to a long and productive relationship with them. Madam President, with your permission, I now invite Senate colleagues to participate. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robinson. And before I open the floor to senators to participate in this debate, I would just like to acknowledge the presence of the minister, Mr. David Birch, Minister of Public Works, who is here with us, along with Stephen Simons, the policy analyst for Public Works. Welcome to you, sir. Would any senator care to speak on this bill, on this agreement? Senator Dwayne Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to stipulate right off the top that the One Bermuda Alliance does support this initiative, and we look forward to seeing the growth potential. And it's good to see Google have a footprint, international company of that reputable size to have a footprint in Bermuda. And, we look forward to what that may expand into. Just because we had a previous conversation on this in the statement given last session, I just asked a few additional questions, and I understand that it's still early days, but just if we could get a potential timeline for when when this lease goes through and the agreement is signed, when that building may be erected and come into functionality, and also the stand-up duration time for this particular project. Also, how the junior minister and the ministry will speak directly to the public to allay some of their concerns, because I think many people are looking at the lease and saying, 262 years for that amount, for 4 million, may be a drop in the bucket for a large company such as Google. Obviously, we understand in this chamber the additional benefits and the additional economic stimulus that the company will provide by being here, and what opportunities that will provide. But just to make sure that the public is also on board, as I've been inundated with a lot of questions about like the amount and all of that stuff, just to make sure that that communication is really drilled into the public so that they can see the positives of this particular initiative as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robinson. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then we'll wait for a response from Junior Minister.
Madam President,
Senator Robinson.
the first question, I believe, regarding standing up time and the building, it is a bit early to say. The company is currently finalizing building designs. A planning application will soon be sent in. And then as far as the timing and the 262 years, the prices of market value by experienced surveyors, and the company paid more than what the valuation price was. That answers the questions.
Thank you, Senator Robinson. Then you can proceed to move your bill. Oh, yes. Oh, agreement.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the said draft lease be approved.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you.
The lease is agreed, and thank you, senators, for your participation. With that, we will move on then with our orders of the day. Item number 14, motions, there are none. Item number 15, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches. Would any senator care to speak? Senator Dwayne Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to commend the Mirrors program for their outreach regarding life coaches and all of the things they've been doing to strengthen the connection between the students and the life coaches within the community. And I just wanted to just commend them for the work that they do, and hope that other people in the community will also take up their offer and become life coaches for students between the ages of 14 and 16. And that they are able to provide a life coach to each child and each student that requires it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Would any other senator? Senator Lindsay Robinson, you have the floor. Sorry, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. I've several Robinsons are speaking this morning. Senator Lindsay Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you,
My
Madam President.
apologies.
Madam President, I would like to thank the Minister of Youth, Social Development and Seniors. Yesterday, she went on the steps of City Hall to talk about domestic violence. October is this domestic violence month, and I am so thankful that she continues to put this forward because it's a serious issue in Bermuda, and the more we talk about it, the more it will not be a taboo situation. So thank you to the minister for continuing to roll this forward. And yes, remember that October is the Domestic Violence Month. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Lindsey Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Robin Tucker, opposition leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to express condolences to the family of Mr. Bruce Fraser, who was a constituent in number 7. I would also like to express congratulations to the One Bermuda Alliance team on a very successful conference on Monday evening. I would like to just say thank you to everyone that played a part to making the evening such a success, to the supporters and the attenders and the vendors and everyone. Again, congratulations on a very successful conference. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to extend condolence to the Thompson family on the passing of their grandmother, Mildred Thompson. She was married to Reverend J. Alton Thompson. And those who may remember Reverend J. Alton Thompson, he was a larger-than-life figure in the clergy community. And he was also a former pastor at Bethel Amy Church. So we wish the Thompson family condolences at this time. And also, we extend condolences to the Woolrich family on the passing of Rosalind Woolrich, who's the mother of Johnny Woolrich. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam President, and thank you. I raised my voice this morning to offer condolences to the family of Rocky Hassel. And you would have heard in this chamber on Monday, Madam President, the accolades for Jerde Hassel and her amazing opening at the Masterworks Museum. Rocky Hassel is the grandfather of Jerde. And as the saying goes, Madam President, sometimes things happen in God's timing. And as many Bermudians know, Jade resides in Manchester, along with her mother, Tiane Eichmann. And so they were both on the island to see their father and grandfather, in this moments before hours before he passed away. So our prayers and thoughts are with the Hassel family at this time. Thank you, Madam President.
Uh, Madam President, unfortunately, as you do know, um, the research for these questions that are asked comes from other places, and an unfortunate error was made regarding the second question that was asked by Senator Tucker. we are feverishly working to try to get a correction so that that is put on record. So we'll probably move to motion to adjourn. And if the questions do not come in by the end of this session, I will formally write to you, Madam President, with the correct responses, including those necessary, so that the correct answer can be put on record. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President, may I just ask a question, just for my own clarity? Is the minister only talking about a correction to number 2, or, okay, that's it. I just want to make sure I was clear. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I do now ask that the Senate adjourn until Friday, November 8th. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be brief today, but I would be remiss if I didn't speak today. Madam President and fellow Senate colleagues, I rise today to reflect on the significant achievements of the Progressive Labour Party government between 2020 and 2024 when I became a senator. Madam President, during these challenging years, our island, like many others, faced unprecedented effects of the global pandemic. However, Madam President, the PLP government has demonstrated resilience, leadership, and a deep commitment to the people of Bermuda. Today, I will outline several key initiatives that showcase our government's dedication to improving the quality of life for Bermudians across all sectors. The first one I want to talk about, Madam President, is economic recovery and diversification. Madam President, the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic requires swift and bold action. The Bermuda Economic Recovery Plan, introduced in 2020, provided direct financial assistance to individuals and businesses, ensuring that families could keep food on the table and businesses could continue to operate. But our response did not stop at recovery. The PLP government recognized that long-term resilience required a diversified economy by attracting investments in digital currency and other emerging industries. We have created new opportunities for Bermuda. These industries, alongside our traditional sectors, have strengthened our economy and provided new avenues for job creations, particularly for young Bermudians eager to step into high-tech, forward-looking careers. Madam President, housing and social welfare. I want to highlight the Independent Living Program. Madam President, housing and social welfare remains a top priority for this government, and the Independent Living Program represents one of our most forward-thinking initiatives. This program is designed to support young Bermudians transitioning out of the foster care system, providing them with tools and resources they need to live independently by offering access to housing, educational opportunities, and life skill training. We are empowering these young adults to thrive, ensuring no one is left behind as a transition into adulthood. I personally know a few that are residing at the independent living facility, and they did say that initially they did not want to go, but they are thriving and going to be productive members of our society because of this government's forward thinking. Madam President, in addition, our affordable housing initiative has provided much needed relief to Bermudians struggling with high cost of housing by building new affordable homes and renovating public housing. The PLP government is delivering on its promises to make Bermuda a place where everyone can afford to live with dignity. Madam President, legislation action to combat revenge porn. This is huge, Madam President. In our increasing digital world, new threats to personal privacy and dignity have emerged. One such threat is revenge porn. The non consensual sharing of intimate images, recognizing the need to protect our citizens from this form of abuse, the PLP government introduced and passed landmark legislation that criminalized revenge porn. Madam President, this law provides much needed legal protection for victims and holds offenders accountable with serious penalties. It sends a clear message in Bermuda. We will not tolerate the violation of individuals' privacy, and we are committed to ensuring that our laws keep pace with the challenges of the digital age. Madam President, also I want to highlight that we continue to raise the pension. The PLP government has stood by our seniors, recognizing the immense contributions they have made to our society. Over the past years, we have worked to ensure that seniors can live with dignity and financial security. I am proud to highlight that under the PLP government, we have increased seniors' pension, providing much needed financial relief to those who have spent their lives contributing to the betterment of Bermuda. The pension increases reflect our commitment to safeguarding the well-being of our elder population, ensuring they are not left behind as the cost of living rises. By raising pensions, we are reaffirming our promise to take care of those who have taken care of us. Madam President, the education and youth empowerment. Our youth represents Bermuda's future, and the PLP government has prioritized reforms in education to prepare them for the world ahead. Through the education reform agenda, we have modernized our public school system, focusing on personalized learning and skills developed to meet the needs of the 21st century workforce. Investments in digital infrastructure and teaching training have empowered both students and educators to succeed in rapidly evolving global economy. Furthermore, Madam President, the expansion of our scholarship program has opened new doors for young Bermudians, offering them the opportunities to pursue highlighted education locally and abroad. This government believes in the power of education to transform lives, and we are committed to giving our young people the opportunity ahead. Year after year, we continue to raise the amount of scholarships that we give. Madam President, healthcare enhancements. Madam President, access to quality healthcare remains one of the cornerstones of our government's work. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we prioritize public health and safety, rolling out the vaccine program and ensuring our healthcare system was equipped to handle the crisis. But beyond the pandemic's response, we have also expanded healthcare services, recognizing the psychological toll that recent years have taken on many Bermudians. By increasing access to mental health care and community-based services, the PLP government has worked to ensure mental health is treated with the same urgency as care as physical health. Our investment in healthcare are designed to create a system that supports the well-being of all Bermudians, regardless of their income or circumstance. Madam President, climate action and environmental stewardship. As a small island nation, Bermuda is acutely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. In response, the PLP government introduced the Bermuda Climate Action Plan, setting ambitions targeted for reducing carbon emission and expanding the use of renewable energy. Through this plan, we have incentivized the adoption of clean energy technologies such as solar power and prioritizing the protection of our unique marine ecosystem. Environmental sustainability is not only a matter of survival for Bermuda, but is also an opportunity. By positioning Bermuda as a leader in environmental stewardship and the clean energy, we are creating new jobs and industries that will benefit our economy while protecting our environment for future generations. The minister, I want to highlight the Minister of Home Affairs, has been globally recognized for his efforts in our climate change. Madam President, and let's talk about transparency and good governance. Madam President, the trust between the government and its people is vital to the success of any administration. This is why we introduced the Public Access Information Reform Bill, PATI, enhancing transparency in government operations. This reform ensures that Bermudians have access to information about their government functions and can hold their leaders accountable. In addition, reforms to procurement processes ensure fairness and prevents corruption, demonstrates our commitment in good governance and the integrity of public office. So, Madam President, in closing, the PLP government has worked diligently over the past 4 years, to create stronger, more inclusive, and a more prosperous Bermuda, for raising seniors' pensions and expanding social welfare programs, to introducing laws to protect citizens from digital abuse. We have placed the well-being of Bermudans at the heart of our agenda. Our commitment to education, healthcare, environmental sustainability, and the economic diversification is ensuring Bermuda is well positioned for the future. The challenges that we face together have been significant, but our achievements demonstrate that we are united in purpose, and there is nothing we cannot overcome. The PLP government remains steadfast in its mission to create a fairer, and a more equitable Bermuda for all. Thank you, Madam President.
Good morning, Madam President. Honorable members of the Senate, you will have just heard my colleague Lindsay Simmons talk about the PLP's initiatives to ensure a fairer Bermuda. And in that regard, I'd like to speak a little about my ministry and the new framing of my portfolio as Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. That renaming of the portfolio and kind of movement of responsibilities under that portfolio designate how the PLP is looking at efforts to reform and make Bermuda fairer. And so I want to talk a little about what is happening specifically. You will have heard in the government's recent commitment, the estimates in another place of an additional $25 million towards social programs to ensure that more Bermudians benefit from our economic progress. I'm pleased to speak today on the supplementary budget allocation of $400,000 for the Department of Corrections, the responsibility of which was recently transferred to the Ministry of Justice. This department was formerly under the responsibility of the Ministry of National Security. That ministry, National Security, initiated the application for additional funds, which came to fruition prior to the change in ministerial responsibility. So it now rests with me. Madam President, this shift in responsibilities signifies government's commitment to integrating justice with rehabilitation, and emphasizing that our correction system is not merely about secure confinement, but also offers second chances and restored lives. Each time a person is convicted of a crime or is removed from our society, we lose a family member, a friend, a neighbor, and the most valuable resource we have as a country. Therefore, it is our duty to provide rehabilitation opportunities to assist individuals to successfully reintegrate into society. By offering programs that promote personal growth and skills development, we contribute to safer communities and brighter futures. Madam President, the Department of Corrections provides rehabilitative services for the entire inmate population across its facilities. But make no mistake, Madam President, more needs to be done. The majority of the additional funding that we have just received will be used to hire 3 full-time program facilitators who are trained in the delivery of multiple programs, as well as to enhance existing programs such as the work program, the National Center for Construction Education and Research, culinary arts, leadership development, intimate partner violence group sessions, thinking for a change, anger management, and practical courses like CPR. A portion of the funds, Madam President, will also be used to purchase computers for educational and employment purposes to enhance the skills of inmates. There is a dearth of available computers at the facility at the moment. So this is a crucial element of the rehabilitation progress. Enhancement of these programs will therefore provide inmates with several opportunities for personal development, with the hope that they are returned to the community more equipped to be more responsible citizens and to make positive contributions to society. Madam President, as Minister of Justice, my aim is to ensure that the department is adequately supported and equipped to transform and enhance the lives of those under its charge. Last Thursday, on September 26, I had the opportunity to visit the co-ed facility for a graduation ceremony and to witness and speak to the value of such programs under its remit. In commemoration of National Recovery Month, we celebrated the achievements of 2 remarkable individuals who graduated from the program at the Right Living House, where this year's theme is the art of recovery. We acknowledge that the journey to healing is a creative and transformative process. One of the graduates stood and said, "Recovery is a daily process." I was certainly moved to hear firsthand their stories and how each of the graduates is crafting a new and hopeful future through resilience, determination, and by taking full advantage of the programs at the Right Living House. Madam President, the Department of Corrections must be commended for its work and track record in giving second chances, but more must be done. So these invaluable resources will contribute to the work that is being done, and the allocation of these funds will assist in those traditional transformational opportunities. Thank you, Madam President.
And thank you, Senator the Honorable Kim Wilkerson, Attorney General and Minister of Justice, for your comments. Would any other senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn? Here. Senator Robinson, I didn't. Oh. Senator Robinson, you have the floor. I didn't see her hand.
Thank you, Madam President. It's a couple of things I want to speak on today. Firstly, my colleagues have spoken already about some of the initiatives and works that this government has done over the last few years. And Madam President, we understand that more has to be done. But Madam President, we want the listening audience to know that we hear and we understand, and we will continue to do the work for our people to ensure better lives for all of our people. Madam President, I know much has already been said about some of the initiatives, but I just want to read just a bit of an excerpt from the opposition's budget statement that says that we need a government that's going to get back to basics, tackles what is important, getting the fundamentals right, and ultimately delivering what is needed. Madam President, That's who this PLP government is. We are tackling issues, not saying that they're all done, but we are tackling issues. And we are getting back to some of the fundamentals for our persons. And so, Madam President, as Junior Minister of Economy and Labor, I just wanted to highlight just a few things in particular when we are talking about economic development. We pulled together and created an economic development strategy encompassing a framework that sets out strategic priorities and initiatives that will provide direction and drive government's economic growth. We've updated the framework for our family offices, and it removes the legal and policy impediments, making it easier for foreign family offices to be domiciled here and thus generating direct foreign investment. We amended the Economic Development Act to approve residential schemes within the city limits of the Corporation of Hamilton in order to address economic inequality, stimulate economic growth, and empower entrepreneurs. More so, Madam President, what this government has done is supporting job seekers, positioning them to take advantage of opportunities in the world of work. For example, the Department of Workforce Development administered various face-to-face, on-the-job, online, virtual learning webinars, internships, apprentices, and training programs in which over 650 persons participated. We secured part-time or full-time employment for 70 individuals as a result of those training initiatives. We facilitated employment opportunities for 388 persons, unemployed Bermudians, through the Department of Workforce Development's Bermuda Job Board referral process. We implemented personal employment plans, Madam President, designed to help financial assistance recipients secure employment. And this was a joint effort between the Department of Financial Assistance and the Department of Workforce Development. Madam President, we implemented phase one of the two-phase national reemployment strategy aimed at reducing unemployment. Phase one includes the following education. It includes education, training, employment services to help individuals secure employment. We implemented the youth employment strategy through the Department of Workforce Development to facilitate greater opportunities and educational pathways to all young Bermudians. Madam President, we continued in more recent times with the continued implementation of the reemployment strategy. A hospitality recruitment drive, for example, was conducted in December of 22 at the Hamilton Princess, and it provided employment exposure for 130 job seekers. Madam President, we provided a total of $350,000 in scholarships to support 25 Bermudians. We continued the college summer jobs program. We granted apprenticeship trainee awards to a number of Bermudians, about 52 of them. We continued to publish information on potential job opportunities for Bermudians. We created a workforce development advisory board consisting of a broad base of stakeholders to carry out the critical leadership function of the Bermuda Workforce Development Plan. This will enable the government to better understand national training demands. We created the newly named National Certification and Apprentice Board, and this will focus solely on national certification administration, the individual's development in skills, trade, and increased promotion, and advocacy for apprenticeship schemes. Department of Workforce Development implemented, as we said, the youth employment strategy for Hotel Concession Act management training, apprenticeships that government offered apprenticeship opportunities by providing support to persons interested in starting a career in higher demand fields. We have a number of summer programs. Also, that Bacardi Shake Your Future. As a result of the government's partnership with Bacardi, 6 persons passed their European bar school exams and completed their 2-week program. And so, Madam President, this government has done much and is continuing to do much when it comes to economic development and also to ensure that persons are being trained and are being able to get jobs. One of the other highlights, Madam President, is that we preserve jobs and implemented legislation and policies that support progress in the workplace. We legislated the Trade Union and Labor Relations Act to further strengthen the Employment Act to ensure workers' rights are protected in the workplace. And additional rights included a requirement for employees to provide a written policy against bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace and advise how it can be assessed. A requirement for employers to provide employees with a midway performance review during an employee's probationary period to identify areas for improvement. We expanded bereavement leave to include grandparents, great-grandparents, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. A requirement for employees to pay any wages and other remuneration or benefits owed to the employee upon termination. A requirement for employers to pay any wages and other remuneration owed. And that would be recruitment of employers to provide their employees with a meal break of at least 30 hours after the employee has continuously worked for 5 hours. Enhanced scrutiny of work permit applications, and we are continuing to improve that. And of course, Madam President, we are committed to continuing the minimum wage, which right now is set at $16.40, but as we know, is now under review. Madam President, we also had the the tips and gratuities and service charges. Employers will not be able to withhold tips or other gratuities from their employees. We established the Labor Relations section as a department within the Ministry of Economy and Labor to provide enforcement of the Employment Amendment Act 2020 and to provide a one-stop shop for all employment and labor services. And so, Madam President, I've just highlighted a few things that this Economy and Labor Ministry has done in support of both economic development and ensuring that persons are trained and able to work, and then ensuring safeguards in the workplace. And Madam President, even if I turn now to my other hat, which is the Ministry of Public Works, some of the community operations that we've done, the closed TNT Tatum School building, for example, has been populated by community-based organizations, including BASE, the Autism Support Charity, PHC Restoration Ministries, Grace Point, a boxing gym, a carpentry shop, a community kitchen, a thrift shop, and various other community-based organizations. Madam President, many will say that, we're closing these schools and the buildings, what are going to happen? But I'm happy to say that we've done and will continue to assess those buildings and look to have community development in those buildings. Also, Madam President, as far as housing, affordable homes, because we know that is of a um, critical issue for us. We invested $21 million into the refurbishment of 167 housing units. We partnered with the Leopards Club recently to renovate their old building into 13 additional units. And we established the Home Start program, which has helped 34 Bermudian families to own homes. 6 additional families are in the final stages. And so, Madam President, the ministries, the various ministries of this government are continuing to do the work. It is not easy, and we know that there is much more that needs to be done. But it's not right to just say that, we are not tackling what's important. We are ensuring that our persons are working, those who are unemployed are getting the necessary training. We are ensuring that there's more economic development in this community. We are ensuring that persons who are in the workplace will have additional safeguards. We are looking at various measures to ensure that we continue to increase affordable housing stock on this island. We are ensuring that buildings that may now be free will be able to now be used for community works in the community. And so, Madam President, I am proud of this government. I'm proud of the works that the 2 ministries that I come under, the work that they have been doing and will continue to do for our people, because what we want is a better Bermudian, a better country for all Bermudians. And now, Madam President, I want to turn to just very quickly on voting. And we have a by-election that's coming up, and we know that we will be having, a general election at some point. And I want to just remind the listening public of the fact that persons in this community fought hard for the right to vote, fought hard for persons like us to be able to vote. There was a time in Bermuda when only those who own property could vote, Madam President. And it was such that those who own property, what they would do to be able to even get an upper hand, they would then, if you had deeds, say on a property in Southampton, and you had family that had deeds on properties, say in St. George's or in Smith's Parish, you would also try and get your names put on those deeds in Smith's and in St. George's, for example, so that you could actually then vote in Somerset, in St. George's, and in Smith's. And so imagine for so many of us who were not, our families were not able to own a home or own property, we were really disenfranchised. Here were persons that could vote in multiple areas, and there were others that could not vote at all. And so, Madam President, people in this country fought hard so that all of us could vote. And then it was a time where it was women could not vote. It was a time when you had to be age 21 to vote. And this government was able to change that law to 18. And so, Madam President, I'm saying to the listening public and the listening audience, many persons out there don't want to vote nowadays. I hear it all the time when I go out on the doorsteps. No, I'm not voting. I just don't feel right. I don't think anyone can help me.
Senator Robinson, you need to complete your sentence. The 15 minutes is up.
Thank you, Madam President. I just say get out and vote. Thank you, Madam President, and vote Progressive Labor Party.
Thank you, Senator Leslie Robinson, the Junior Minister for Public Works and Economy and Labor. Senator Robin Tucker, Opposition Leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I won't be very long. I've listened to, lots of things that the government has done. And again, everybody in here will have heard me before. I'm not the person that's going to, if I think the government has done something right, I acknowledge that. And so there were some things that they have mentioned that they've done right, or have had good outcomes from. So I won't take that away. One of the things that I do, before I go into really what I wanted to say, is something that the Junior Minister for Economy and Labor just mentioned about Tia and Tatum. That's kind of a bugbear for me. And particularly because my recollection, and I stand to be corrected, my recollection of the reason why Tia and Tatum was closed was because of asbestos and other issues with the buildings and whatnots. So I will park that there, but I just wanted to make that point. And as I said, I do stand to be corrected. What I wanted to talk about today, given that this is our last legislative session for this period, I wanted to talk about some things that are important to basic people like me. I am a basic person, and I canvass quite a bit. And other basic people like me, obviously, they care about, and we care about jobs, and we care about, all a number of the things that were already mentioned and highlighted. There are a couple of things, very, very, very basic things. I'm not saying easy things to correct, but basic things that still have had no real resolution, or what appears to be focused attention. And I've brought them up here before. And so given that this is our last session, I want to bring them up again. And hopefully we'll get some traction when we enter the next legislative session. So one of those things, Madam President, Junior Minister Simmons talked about October being Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. And we know, as was recently stated, in 2023, there were 133 people reported domestic abuse issues. 126 were women and 7 were men. 159 children were affected or exposed. I want to take a second and just celebrate those who reported, because it takes a lot to do that. I also want to point out that, again, it was stated publicly that in the first 6 months of 2024, there were 33 recorded domestic violence incidences that the Bermuda Police Service received, and 25 instances of domestic abuse, dealt with between, or I should say reported between the 3rd of August and the 19th of August. I want to ask, Madam President, while I do know that legislation alone is not going to fix this domestic abuse issue, but I would like to know, where is the updated legislation? We don't even have an adequate definition of domestic abuse. And yet we bring to this chamber legislation that allows people, in fact, we came into this chamber to deal with pretty much, if I remember correctly, it was just about one bill, and that was to allow classic cars and people to import them so that they can drive them on the weekends and public holidays. I have a problem with that, Madam President. I want to again bring that to the forefront. The other thing that I want to talk about in relation to things that we still have not had addressed, and that where's the update on the issue of dangerous dogs? The Canine Advisory Committee was due to provide their report in June. The minister was to review that report. Where's the update? Are we going to wait until somebody else gets attacked by a dog before we have another promise of dealing with this on an urgent basis? And we've heard that now for a couple of years, if we look back into all of the statements and reports and things. I'm not even going to look, I'm going to look at you, Madam President. I am not even going to be sidetracked. But one of the things that I'll repeat that we've heard that this is an urgent matter several years now. We have had several people who have been attacked by dogs. We've had dogs murder kill other dogs, and the whole nine. And the thing is, Madam President, it's an issue that does need to be addressed with a sense of urgency, as was said. And I do appreciate that there are other things that are happening, and I've acknowledged that from the beginning. However, there are also things that cannot be ignored, and this is one of them. And so is the domestic abuse issue that I just talked about. We right now have an issue at the hospital where, again, we know that we have people that are in the emergency room, and now is almost the norm where people are lining up in the hallways. Madam President, come on. This can't be the Bermuda that we are promoting. So, I mean, these are issues that need to be addressed. They are important. They are important, as I said a minute ago. They are important to people that, I mean, I've spoken to a number of them. I get calls from people about some of these issues. And again, now I'm going to talk to you about feral animals that we've got going on here. You've already heard me talk about feral chickens. I hear about the people that keep talking to me that that report and also contact me and talk about that issue, that they're being kept up at night. The people are trying to grow their own food. So some people would think that this is a minor issue, but it really is not. There are farmers right now who are losing their crops because and they're not only farmers that are supplying the country to ensure that we can have some kind of local food source, but there are also people that are growing foods in their backyards that are for their own supply, which would help to reduce some of the cost of living if we had more local foods here. And yet they're having chickens and rats coming and eating their crops. And yet we still have not addressed this matter with the sense of urgency that it actually needs. So, Madam President, I'm going to wrap up by saying these are important issues that I would hope that the government does not use an opportunity to dismiss the importance of these very, very concerning issues. Because these are things that are important to people. They're important to me, and they are important to the numbers of people that I speak to when I'm not only canvassing, but as I mentioned a minute ago, I get the calls, I get the emails. Nobody wants to keep talking about it. I don't have a problem talking about it because it's a problem. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker, opposition leader in the Senate. Would any other senator care to speak at this time? Senator Dwayne Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Monday going, the One Bermuda Alliance held a very successful AGM in which we revealed our platform for how we would address the issues plaguing Bermudians. And the reason why that's important is because of the journey that the One Bermuda Alliance has taken to reach those conclusions and to reach this point now. After the fallout of the 2020 snap election, we ended up with a 30-6 majority in the House for the Progressive Labor Party. And I said to yes, we, the people of Bermuda, Madam President, in case the minister's having trouble listening. So we ended up with a 36 majority to the Progressive Labor Party, and the people have made their voices known. When we came to the caucus after that defeat, I had said to myself, maybe that's it. And a lot of people had said to us, it's probably time to consider closing the doors and moving on. However, when I walked into the caucus room of the One Bermuda Alliance in our headquarters, the room was full of the same people that had run in that election, standing there saying, what's next? I believe in the message that the One Bermuda Alliance brought to the people, but we also accepted that we needed to elevate as a party. We needed to present ourselves as a viable alternative because we did not do that in the 2020 election. But instead of shirking away in defeat, instead of buckling to the pressures to basically acquiesce a one-party state, we decided to get to work. And I commend folks, including those on the other side, who stand up for their convictions and put themselves forward for public service. The OBA's journey took us through some hard conversations about how we have heard from the community that we weren't prepared, that our candidates weren't out. And we learned that we needed to adapt and to elevate, to show the people the message we believe in, and to get them to see our side of things and the way that we believe the island should be run. And fast forward now to 2024, the One Bermuda Alliance has shown that not only are we willing to punch above our weight and provide alternatives, stand up and hold a 30-seat majority government accountable, but that we have created such momentum, that we have created such change that not only is the membership increasing, but we have had a government MP walk away from a ministerial salary and come to the opposition because he and many others have seen the changes. And so we decided with this AGM that we needed to open up to the public, to show the public our plan, to show the public our plan. And Madam President, I also like to just really quickly remind the Minister of the Decorum in this chamber and to speak directly to the chair when his time comes, because we've dealt with that as well for this legislative agenda. And I think he should.
Senator Robinson, you're talking, you're addressing
Yes, I'm just
your
letting you.
comments to me.
Yes,
and
Madam
that is
President.
what is acceptable.
Yes, Madam President.
Your comments to myself.
Of course. Yes, much respect to you, of course, Madam President. So we decided to open this up to the public because we have felt and heard the calls of people to say, well, the One Bermuda Alliance, you've been canvassing, you've rolled out your candidates, you're prepared, and we wanted to let the public know we're not waiting for the writ drop from the Progressive Labor Party. We are not making the mistakes of the past. We are ready for a general election. We are ready to share our plan and lead with our chin. And we understand that that will mean that it will be defined and the rhetoric will start. But The plan, the plan is addressing the things that we have heard and we have spoken to with the experts in each field, maximizing farms earning land, cutting payroll tax for the employer to hire young Bermudians, working with hotel developers, not property developers, producing actual balanced budgets that do not require us to borrow from the sinking fund to create a balanced budget, not doing fiscal policy about bragging about $25 million investments into social programs that should have been done already, not bragging about $4 million surpluses in the face of over $3 billion in debt, that if any Bermudian ran their household like that, it would not be sustainable. So that's what leads me to the back to basics approach laid out by our leader at the AGM. Bermuda's basic functions, our road paving, our bus schedule, our infrastructure management, our healthcare, our education, the maintenance of our schools that are closed and then repurposed for community things when the school was closed because it was not fit for the students. How can it be fit for people within the community? These are the basic things. Opening up a business account. So when the One Bermuda Alliance says back to basics, we mean building up the fundamentals and repairing the basic functions of Bermuda so that we can rebuild and plan for future growth. We are not the party that intends to legislate for each election and kick the can down the road. We have created a straightforward plan, easily digestible, that will be followed by even more in-depth policy that reflects a country in billions of debt with a deficit in our working population of 6,000 to 8,000 people, with an island that has become unsustainable because we continue to allow our debt to rack up, ignoring the population balloon that is set to burst when folks turn 65, who are a majority of the workforce. We are not the party that is going to ignore what is coming down the pipeline when public services are not able to be maintained because there's not enough taxpayers here to mitigate the amount that will leave the workforce through retirement. We are not going to sit by idly as we move towards a place where taxes will have to be increased on people, maybe 5 to 10 years from now on Bermudians, because public services are not sustainable. We do not want to surrender to a Bermuda where Bermudians have to work past 65 to survive, and the retirement age goes to 68, maybe to 70, up because of these underfunded pensions and the higher contributions on younger payers who will be forced to leave the island because they cannot sustain the burden of paying for a lack of workforce in the island. We are looking to address, not just for the now, and get Bermuda back to functioning on a level where basic things are done, but we are also looking to address future issues, things that this particular government does not want to discuss. They're talking about transparency. We sit in this chamber where we are told last minute we are debating 9 to 12 bills. That is not transparency. That is not adequate democracy, because there's no way that those bills should be pushed into a point where each member has to analyze and discuss them long into the night. We are constantly inundated with schedule changes, and the opposition makes itself available because we know who we serve is the people of Bermuda. However, again, Madam President, I'll continue to talk to you because I know what decorum is, and I know that a lot of people outside of this chamber are appalled by the decorum of both chambers, especially coming from those who are appointed and elected ministers. But I'll continue. So the people who, well, we know that. We know that. We know you're not elected, for sure. Thank you, Madam President. I see the minister's excited about his safe seat he's received from his party in C-15. But please understand that with the public, they have asked us for a plan. We have delivered a plan, and it is on our website for all to read. And I welcome everyone who continues to speak to us, who allows us to come into their homes, who stop us on the street and tell us, thank you for saying that. Thank you for bringing that up. And understand that we want to hear your feedback on this plan. We will not, the One Bermuda Alliance will not allow itself and its image to be crafted by the Progressive Labor Party anymore. The people and the voters now know what we stand for, what our priorities are. There is no, oh, the OBA did not support housing. There are housing measures in our platform to let Bermudians know that we do support home ownership, but we do not support the methods that this government is using to get you to pull from your future self and put yourself in jeopardy. Our government that brags about allowing you to take from your own future because it cannot afford to properly supplement and give a proper support to getting you on that home ownership ladder. We will not accept it. And so we are looking forward to Bermudians getting to know the One Bermuda Alliance and see all the plans and all of the candidates and all of the things that we have done to get ourselves ready for a general election. And I want to let the Bermudian public know we are indeed ready, not just for the general election, but to govern and to turn Bermuda around, because we all know that is at a precipice. We have a candidate, Carl Neblett, who has stepped forward in C-36, a seat where many people feel has been a stronghold for the Progressive Labor Party. And he is excited to represent a community that he has been a part of for the last 30 years. And we do not have to convince people. They are coming to us to run in seats that they are told they have no chance in, and working hard, giving his all, canvassing into 8 p.m. at night to show the people of Somerset, not just to convince them, but to show them that he is part of a team that is going to address their concerns. And I hope that in this by-election coming up, the folks of Somerset have seen enough of Carl and have gotten a chance to learn about him, and that they trust him enough to become their representative, because he is a part of a team that not only has learned from its mistakes, but is connecting to the community, is telling the people the truth about where our island is heading, and has taken the opportunity to provide ourselves to the community to get feedback, because we meet with these stakeholder groups who feel as though they cannot speak up, and we speak for them. In the face of a government with an overwhelming majority, we have stood firm, and we are ready now to show Bermuda that this One Bermuda Alliance party is a party that reflects them. A diversity in a room, consensus between people from business, farming, work, labor, IB, because we have found that this particular Labor Party has been speaking a lot to the insurance and IB market. A lot. In fact, during our housing debate of that Pension of Occupation Act, this international business was mentioned several times. And what the OBA is telling the people is that, yes, we value international business, but we also value the local economy. And we also value retooling our people. And that's why we believe as well in an independent education authority, because we understand that politics is finite and we are not going to be here forever. But it's that future planning that sets us apart. And I invite everybody to look at both plans and look at both parties and weigh their options. But I will tell you, if you want to secure Bermuda's future, the One Bermuda Alliance party is the party for you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Dwayne Robinson, opposition senator. Would any other senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Darrow, you
I
have the
think this
floor.
would be an opportune time for me to speak and, remind the listening public of the work that their government, the Progressive Labor Party government, has been doing and will continue to do. Madam President, it's been a while since I gave one of my speeches in this chamber a title. Madam President, I'm going to give the title of this speech, Hard Work. Madam President, there's a saying that I don't know if some in this chamber have heard, but the reward for hard work is more work, Madam President. And as I listened to a particular speech a moment ago, there was a lot of pom-pom cheering and flag waving, Madam President. But what we did not hear, we heard a couple of speeches about animals, and yes, they are very important, Madam President. But what was lacking from what we've heard from the other side in this chamber today was a focus on the people. A focus on those in public who I am a member of a party that is pleased to represent. Madam President, I heard a senator from the other side, who many people don't even know his name, unfortunately, use the word given. And 4 years ago, yesterday, Madam President, this government was given, yes, Madam President, given a mandate from the people of this country to the tune of 30-6, Madam President, to work hard for the people of this country. So, Madam President, we make no apologies for the mandate that individuals have given us. And that, Madam President, comes at the end, Senator, of hard work. Madam President, I spent a lot of time on the corner of Court and Victoria Street in my youth. And in that time, at that particular institution, you learn that from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, Madam President. And from one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. So, Madam President, the senator from the other side is absolutely right. This government has been working hard with the mandate that it has been given. This government will continue to serve the people of this country. And while we have a Senate leader from the One Bermuda Alliance talking about feral chickens, if she came down to 16 Cherrydale Moore, she would have talked to my neighbor and learned that the feral chickens of which she speaks about have been dealt with from the MP of the area, MP Anthony Richardson. So thank you for highlighting the hard work that the Progressive Labor Party, the elected official of the places where she walks up and down, is dealing with, Madam President. Let me put something else on the record, Madam President, for some of the misguided statements that were said earlier from the Senate leader of the One Bermuda Alliance. I think the comment was to the effect that nothing has been done with dog regulations.
Madam President, Point of order, Madam President. I didn't say nothing has been done.
Madam President,
Thank you, Madam
I'd
President.
like to continue, please.
Please do, Mr. Darrell.
I can get that she has no clue how to govern, Madam President, because if the One Bermuda Alliance knew anything about governing, they would understand the one thing that they keep calling for is consultation. I will have you to know that the learned Attorney General who sits to my left will have a full update on this matter because we are currently in consultation. Exactly what they asked for, Madam President. Hard work, Madam President. Given a mandate, we will work hard. Let's talk about some of the other things that the Progressive Labor Party has done. The Progressive Labor Party is on track for a $4 billion surplus this year. We've increased pensions by the rate of the inflation, something that the One Bermuda Alliance never done. We've increased child daycare allowance, Madam President. That's hard work based on the mandate that we've been given. We've increased the amount of affordable housing, Madam President. We already know that there's one party in here that has no clue about how to get Bermudians on the way to home ownership because they just don't care. But we will continue to work hard, Madam President, with the mandate that we were, yes, given by the people of this country. Let's talk about people some more, Madam President. The Progressive Labor Party has doubled the scholarship funding. They've introduced the mortgage guarantee program. While we've got the Senate, One Bermuda Alliance leader talking about animal problems that are being dealt with, these are issues that the people are expecting and the people have asked us to deliver, Madam President. Introduced a minimum wage, which has been one of the desires of this great party, the Progressive Labor Party, since its inception. We've delivered it. You would have heard in another place, Madam President, about a $25 million package to bring significant additional resources to the people of this country. Hard work, Madam President. Increase funding for the police to tackle mental health. Invest in extending trauma counseling services. How dare the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance Senate team tell us that we are not doing anything for social programs? Boost programs to
Madam
combat.
President,
I got it
Madam
right
President.
here. I got it right here, Madam President.
Madam President, I did not say the minister
Is this a point of order
misleading.
or
It is a point of order, Madam President. The Senate leader, the government leader is misleading this House. I did not say that they haven't done anything about social programs. He's not telling the truth. And simply
Madam
that's
President,
what it is. He needs to retract
this government is boosting and giving more resources to combat domestic violence and provide additional support to victims of domestic violence, providing more resources to our educators, our social workers, to help them build and serve youth and families of this country, Madam President. Making additional investments in infrastructure, including funding private roads, community lighting, upgrades to youth centers, refurbishment, and community playgrounds, Madam President. This is what hard work for the people that have given us a mandate looks like, Madam President. Funding the opening of senior daycare facility to reduce the burden of adults who care for their senior parents. Something that people in this country have been asking for day in and day out. Expansion of after-school programs, additional investment to support unsheltered population, additional funding for apprenticeship and training programs, additional rehabilitation programs, additional staffing for regional health clinics, a capital grant. Imagine this, for an institution that the One Bermuda Alliance never cared about. They took away money from the Bermuda College But yet we've given a capital grant to the Bermuda College for the people of this country so that they can be better educated. Increased funding for consumer protection to support the cost of living, and additional funding for other community service so that our seniors can continue to live with dignity. We've got the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years, Madam President. We've got more Bermudians working in IB more than ever. Shocking, and I'm not going to give much time to what other people have in their platforms, but it sounds like some of it is a copy and paste. I had a quick look, and one of the things says they will increase affordable housing. Isn't that exactly what the Progressive Labor Party is doing? Hard work, Madam President, given the mandate of people. Let's talk about education and how this party and this government puts the youth first. National Youth Strategy that has been implemented. Youth employment opportunities. Increased scholarships in the Bermuda College. You've seen in this session many hotel investment acts come. We just passed hotel concessions and restaurant concessions, all to help the people of this country. That is hard work, Madam President. And as we know, I would like to take this last couple of minutes. Oh, also, one thing I do want to say is that the domestic violence has been defined. I'd like to draw the attention of the One Bermuda Alliance Senate leader, she can thank me later, to the Protection Order Act of 1997. It's there, Madam President. But Madam President, as we look forward, and we have an election that will happen on Friday, and we are all familiar with the eventual winner of that election on Friday because she used to sit in this very chamber. And Madam President, in adding to the comments of my Senate colleague, Senator Leslie Robinson earlier, we look forward to supporting the Progressive Labor Party candidate, the former Senator, Reverend Emily Gail Deal, someone who has been connected to that community as long as she can remember. Someone who is a member of the Progressive Labor Party who is focusing on keeping the mantra of hard work available. And yes, Madam President, I hate to break it to the senator from the other side, but we will be given another mandate on Friday to continue to serve this country and the people of this country. So, Madam President, as I close, I'm proud of the work that all of the junior ministers of the Progressive Labor Party that sit in this chamber have done to progress the needs and programs for the people of this country. I thank the learned Attorney General who has returned to this chamber to continue to serve the people of this country. And I'm sorry, Madam President, that the work that we are putting in, somebody complained about having to come to this chamber long into the nights to pass legislation. No apologies, Madam President. We are legislators. We are here to serve the people of Bermuda. And I, quite frankly, don't care what time I leave this chamber if it is to help the people of this country to progress. So we will continue on the theme of where I started, Madam President, and that is hard work. And Madam President, I will repeat it one more time. Because, as I say, I've been a part of this community since the day that I can remember. And one of my first communities, again, was that of the corner of Court and Victoria Street, Madam President. And I'll repeat it one more time. On the topic of hard work and people being upset at what's given from this mandate that the Progressive Labor Party has been given, Madam President, by the people of this country exactly 4 years ago yesterday, from whom has been given much, much will be demanded. And from those who have been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And Madam President, I tell the public every single day I see them in the street, I am here. The Progressive Labor Party is here for one reason and one reason only. And that is to work hard, Madam President, and serve the people of this country. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Darrell. Senators, we've now completed the, oh, I believe Senator Ariana Hudson has indicated she has answers for um, one of the senators.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. The response I had provided to the second question earlier was incomplete, and so I wanted to ensure that I provided the additional details. In addition to Member of House of Assembly, Mr. Tashay Adams receiving remuneration, I myself received remuneration between January 29th, 2024 and the 31st of March, 2024. My contractual remuneration was $7,473 per month. The Member of House of Assembly, Mr. Derek Burgess, chairs the Contributory Pensions Appeals Tribunal, and he's also remunerated at $100 per meeting. And finally, Member of House of Assembly Neville Turrell chairs the Government Employees Health Insurance Management Committee, and he is remunerated at $100 per meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson, for providing that information. And now, Senators, I would like to thank you for your support of the 3 bills that were presented today, the Tax Reform Commission dissolution, as well as the Electricity Amendment Act 2024, but specifically because I don't think that I gave sufficient thanks for this, but the lease agreement, the Seagrass Services Limited and the Bermuda government. And I particularly apologize because the Minister Birch was here, and I really wanted to indicate to him that the Senate has approved it and that I erred in not expressing my full support from the Senate, from all of you, for the support of that bill, which is important for Bermuda. And now, Senators, as you know, we have, I want to thank you also for your time and your effort and your commitment during this session. We will now be completing this session, and I just wanted to express my sincere thanks to each one of you for the work that you have done throughout this session. So Senate now stands adjourned until the 8th, November the 8th, and I wish each and every one of you God's blessings. Thank you. Senate stands adjourned.